Hello YouTube, hello viewer, I hope you're having a good day. Welcome back to another video. If you're stopping by for the first time, please consider subscribing to the channel. I really would appreciate it. Also, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, and if you didn't, please leave a comment and let me know why or how I can improve. Thanks for watching. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to create a good training program. The first step is pretty much connected to the first and most important training principle, which is specificity. You want to create a program that is actually going to take you closer to your goals. Maybe strength gains or muscle gains, or both. It is of course totally fine to create a program that gives you a little bit of both, if that is how you prefer to train. But it can be beneficial to split up your training in different blocks for different purposes. One reason for this is that the body adapts to a certain type of training after a while, whereby it can be a good time to switch things up. Also, different training modalities can benefit from each other. Doing some strength-focused training after a period of high-volume hypertrophy training, lowering your total amount of training volume, and focusing on heavier weights can give your body some time to recover in some ways and adapt in another. For instance, 6 to 8 weeks of strength training followed by a 4-week of hypertrophy block, or the other way around, depending on your goals. The most important thing is that you train in a way that is going to give you the results you are looking for in the long run, and that you create a plan that you actually can stick to. Some people like to only train for hypertrophy or strength, but we feel that a little mix keeps the training interesting and less repetitive. And as I mentioned previously, doing some strength training can benefit your ability to gain muscle mass long term. They go hand in hand in many ways. Increasing the weights and doing a bit less volume for a few weeks in a strength training block will train your central nervous system to handle heavier loads when you go back to your hypertrophy training later. One mistake I've made in the past is starting a new program way too often, just because I got some new ideas or thinking that if I change something, some exercises, my gains would increase. Variety is good, but if you keep changing your workouts from week to week and never stick to the plan, it will be almost impossible to track any progression, and you haven't given your program enough time to actually prove if it's working out for you or not. There's always some room to play around a little bit and have some fun or do something totally new, but most of your training should be according to your training plan. Another thing you need to think about when creating a training plan is making it realistic. Split choice, time in the gym, and the total amount of volume that you can handle should all be factors to consider when you're creating your own training program. You should create a training plan that is realistic to the amount of time that you have to spend in the gym, and also realistic to the amount of effort in terms of volume and intensity, and that you're able to handle the things that you program for yourself. It's not always better to do more. Try to train as effectively as possible, Every rep and set should count and be done with proper technique and effort. You will find out that you need to do way less work in the gym to get the same results if you put the amount of effort in and execute everything with proper technique. Some people like to brag about how much they train or how many sets they do for a certain muscle group. If you could just do more and more to get bigger and bigger and never get fatigued or never have to recover, the gains would just be endless. It would make more sense to brag about how little you have to do and still get really good results. It only means that you are really efficient with your training and know how much you need to do in order to grow. Choose a training split that works for you. If you only can train for 2 days a week, then choose maybe a full body training split with some variation on each training session. If you can train, say, 4 days a week, then an upper-lower body split might be a good choice for you. And if you can train 6 days, in a week, then a push-pull leg split might be the best for you. Also, when you're creating your training program, you want to include exercises that works for you. Yet at the same time, you want to strive to work your whole body in a way that gives you even gains. What I mean by even gains is that you don't want to forget about a certain muscle group or end up picking exercises that overstimulates one part of your body whilst you lack exercises to work another. Try to find out what your weak points are and make them a priority in your program. If you have great pecs and delts, for instance, but lack mass in your upper back, make your back training the priority of your program and make the upper back the first thing you work out on. Try to pick exercises that give you a good amount of stimulus and at the same time cause a slow fatigue. For example, if all you get from barbell back squats is pain in your lower back and knees, maybe it's time to pick another exercise for legs. Don't do squats just because some bro in the gym or on YouTube said that you can't get big legs without it. And if you really want to learn how to squat properly, hire a coach who can show you. There's a good chance that this person will find out that barbell squats isn't even the best way for you to overload your quads anyway. Your program should have some kind of progression or some kind of way to track your progression, either in training volume, intensity, or both. There's a few good methods to determine your amount of effort and track progression. You could start off by training with some reps in reserve in the first week and then add reps and sets to your session week by week until you start to hit failure. You could also use the RPE scale to estimate your intensity and slowly progress week by week by adding heavier weights, or use a combination of both. The key point is to make sure that you know where you are and that you can tell if you're making progress or not. One key to being able to properly track your progression, be it reps or load, is to get your technique right. This should be your main priority. Proper technique and execution of the movement is key for good measurement of progression. If you're all over the place and ignoring full range of motion, using excess momentum just to get your few last reps in, you're just cheating yourself. As I mentioned before, you want to find out how much work you need to do to get results. This is sometimes called minimal effective volume, or MEV for short. The minimal effective volume is going to vary a lot from person to person. A beginner can do as little as 4 working sets for one muscle group for one training session and get results. while an intermediate might have to do 6 to 8 sets, and an advanced person might have to do at least 12 hard sets to see any change at all. You will have to find out what your minimal effective volume is, so that you can start your first training week with at least this amount of training volume. If you do less, not much will happen, and if you do a lot more, you're doing an unnecessary amount of training which will be really hard to recover from. You will start your first week of training somewhere around your minimal effective volume, and then progressively increase your training volume from there, week to week. You have to do some trial and error with yourself to figure out what your MAV is and how much training you need to do in order to grow or get stronger.
Kom igen. Bra. Bra reps hela vägen ner. Där ja, snyggt. Kom en bit upp. Kom igen. Bra.
A few pointers is to start your program by doing enough work so that you feel a good pump in the target muscle, have some soreness afterwards, but nothing totally crazy, and that you feel fully recovered when it's time to hit that muscle again. If you're still sore from the last time you hit chest, when it's time to go again, and you're only in week 1, you're probably doing way too much work, or you messed up your training frequency. If you are going around 2, 3, 4 days fully recovered in a certain muscle, you could probably benefit from doing some more work in the last session, or just upping the frequency of which that you train that muscle. As you progress through your weeks of training in your program and progressively overloading, you will reach a point where you no longer can fully recover. Your fatigue is super high, and the muscles you are working might not even be the limiting factor anymore. You're just too sore and tired. Then it's time to take a deload week and let your body fully recover. After that deload week, begin your next cycle of training, which is usually 4 to 6 weeks, and go a little bit harder from week 1 than you did last time. If you do this, you'll have months and months of steady gains ahead of you. Thank you for watching.
Kom igen. Gå till. Snyggt. Gott så ja. 2 kvar.
Kom igen, hela vägen. Nice.
Sådär, 2 kvar, kom igen.
Sista nu.
Upp. Håll. Nej!